hopefully while we still have this connection, I'm just going to go right off right now. First off, really enjoying this documentary, and the idea of collaboration is a big part of this documentary. How did you guys collaborate as co-directors, especially during the days when maybe both of you might have a different vision on how an edit should go, et cetera, et cetera? How did you guys bridge that gap, or maybe there wasn't that gap at all?
I'll start. It's like, well, we there were many times where there were many different visions, and one person picking it up, and then the other person picking it up, and a sense of juggling. I think that how we first started. I remember I was directing the show. That's the first. That was my first and only mission. So the whole entire time that we were in Cuba, and I was basically on set in the theater, Patrick was calling the shots and doing the interviews and filming every single thing that happened inside that theater. Pat, do you want to say more about that?
Yeah, well, one thing for me that always stayed true is like this is Andy's story. This isn't my story, and that's one of the things that I really honored from the get-go. And the fact that Andy asked me to go, and to film this was such an honor and privilege. And I really, a lot of the times, documentaries and stories in general, they get diluted by so many different opinions, so many people saying how things should go. And so, I really, really defer to Andy, and what he really wanted, or what he felt should be, the direction of what we're seeing now. There's so many things that I did, on my own as a documentarian. It's just standard. But as far as like the story, this is always Andy's story, and I always stayed true to that. And that made it was hard. I'm not saying it wasn't easy, but it made it really easy to accept, a lot of the choices that we made. And to be honest, thank God. And there's so many things that Andy had brought to the story that wouldn't have happened if he didn't feel like in control.
Yeah, and sometimes I had to like really take the reins, in the sense of like, the way that I know Rent is from a very deep, very intimate place, that like new, like the smallest, weirdest little nuances that that are in the film. So like I to be able to massage the film and the fibers of what Rent is into the film is and even just like my own personal story, that's just that, sometimes I have to take leadership there. But then like, if it wants to have more of a political touch, let's say, and resonance, Patrick's really great with making sure that conversation is present. Because remember, we're balancing many different things. We're balancing Rent, we're balancing my personal story, politics, and then the the viewer has to like care for this guy that nobody really knows who this guy is. No one, somebody who's watching may not even know what Rent is, and somebody who's watching for Rent may not even have any idea of what the politics are with Cuba. So there's all that has to come together in an hour and a half in some kind of way that touches all the points effectively.
A big part of Rent deals with finding your family no matter what, through trials and tribulations. And I think, with all due respect, I think the star of this documentary, and is your mother. How good does it feel for both of you to have her pretty much be the star? We're talking about bridging gaps, just bridging these two worlds. And you're talking about bringing voice to Cuba and the musical, but having your mother's voice as a big part of this documentary must mean a lot to you on a personal level.
Yeah, I mean, my mom steals the film. It's what I find interesting is that I was Angel in the show, but my mom is the angel in this film. Um, of course, we knew that when when she makes the trip to Cuba, but without any spoilers, like how the story continues to unfold there. You know, my mom, we'll just say my mom did see a cut of the film. Um, so being able to weave her story inside, for me, it speaks to the idea of family, not only the family that we have in theater, but the family that we're born into, and how all those can really be one.
Yeah, and for you, Patrick, just shooting that yourself, that must have been a pretty seminal experience for you with all the work you've been doing as well.
Yeah, this is the fourth Cuban film that I've been a part of, and one of the things I didn't want to get wrong was, the our mothers. We being part of the Cuban fabric, our mothers, are a big part of that. Without, and as you notice in Rent and John Carson's Rent, the parents are always there. They're always chiming in. It's a big theme, and I love, one of the things I really loved about interviewing Andy's mom and getting to know her very well, was that, she was the most rebellious of most mothers, and well, not at first, but then she, it was developed. And part of the arc of the story in the film was that she actually did go to her homeland. And I think that's something that I think a lot of people, being Cuban American and being Cuban, there's kind of the same thing over here, the same thing over there, same thing over here is the same thing over there. It's just that life isn't over. You don't just finish with your beliefs. You still continue to push your narrative, to push your story, and to discover what it is that's available for you in life. And so her going to Cuba was one of the hardest things to do, because it wasn't easy. There's a lot of people that said no, and that it was a process, and she really, really wanted to go. And so that was like, all right, well, you're going to go and we're going to document it, because this is, and it was so authentic, the way we document it. You can look at other films and people go to Cuba, like they walk off the plane, they're like, oh, I'm in Cuba. Wow. This was different. This was like, let's go to where I live. Let's go to where I, got married. Let's go to where I remember everything. And it was such a reverence and a sacred opportunity.
My final question to you guys is about what it takes to be a leader as far as a filmmaker. And I think there's a telling moment in this doc where I think, Andy, you had, I think, what is it, maybe tonsillitis, and I think you went to a doctor or something, and she said something. I think.
What was she? You tell me what she was.
yeah. I think my Spanish is horrible, but I think she said something about bomba. Can you talk about bomba?
Bomba.
And the idea of being a mirror, as far, and that a light turned on for me. And did that light turn on for you, both for you guys? And is that maybe how both of you, as far as when you're directing your own projects, do you have that level of bomba in the way you lead and help collaborate with people?
It's something that's definitely stayed with me. It's like that. When the doctor mentions bomba, when she's talking about the heart, what she says is that the regular heart, it pumps blood. But bomba, it not only pumps blood, but it's like a bomb, right? It's like there's an explosion of blood. Let's say in my bad translation of it, because you can't really capture it that well, right? And I think it does require extra heart to particularly for documentary films, like it took us 6-7 years to get this done, and that's just not like everyday blood pumping. that requires bomba. To get a documentary done, it's it took everything. It took every last bit of patience until we just didn't even. Patience is gone, but it's the bomba that keeps you going. It's that the heart you need to, and for leadership to get through anything, I think that's what it requires. It's above the sense and sensibility and what what your brain can put together, I think.
Great. Thank you guys so much for your time. Apologize for my bad internet connection. It'll be very good on audio, so don't worry about it, at least. So thank you guys.
Yes. Thank you, Greg.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg.